What's up, TMFers? Joe Flaherty here with another Taylor's tip. I promised you guys I would keep it up with the videos. So here it is. Here's another one. Um, why your split training routine has probably stopped working in terms of giving you the results that you're looking for. Um, there are a lot of variables that change as you get more advanced, and a traditional bodybuilding split type routine really violates basically all these principles, which comes down to training frequency, volume, intensity or rep ranges, and utilizing advanced techniques. So let's go through those point by point here. With a traditional split routine, or like a bro split, as we like to call it in the evidence-based community, um, it basically dictates that you're training one muscle group per training day, and you're really annihilating that muscle. Like Monday, you may have heard is International Chest Day, so you could go in there and do a couple bench press variations, um, pec deck, push-ups, dips, 4 to 5 different exercises per muscle group, and really chunk your volume all in that one day in an attempt to really, um, people believe, um, really kill that muscle group and therefore try to encourage some more adaptation from it. But that's fundamentally inaccurate in terms of how you should go about scheduling your exercises and your workouts in general. So a split routine like this, where maybe Monday's chest, Tuesday is back, Thursday is or Wednesday is arms, Thursday is legs, Friday is whatever else, delts and traps. Um, this is it might fit the frequency principle if you are a beginner. If you're someone who has been training maybe for less than 6 months, or doesn't have a whole lot of experience under their belt when it comes to training, um, because each specific muscle group, as you get more advanced, requires a higher frequency of hitting that muscle group. You are subject to a detraining effect if you only train a muscle group once a week when you are more relatively advanced. And this is simply because as you advance, you get better at recovering from exercise. You incur less muscle damage, and therefore soreness in response to the same exercise or same exercises. And people falsely equate muscle soreness with progress, which is why a split type routine is so attractive, because by the end of 24 sets to your chest, you're going to feel pretty damn tired, and maybe falsely lull yourself into a sense of progress in that regard. And I wrote an article about this, which I'll link in the description. Um, but things must get rearranged in terms of how you schedule your workouts over the course of a week, in order to encourage further adaptations. You can't simply get away with only hitting a muscle group once a week as an intermediate, or especially as you get further, because the frequency of hitting each muscle group increases as you get more advanced. Um, and this also ties into the total volume that you are getting um, each time, or across the week, we could say. So if you are chunking your volume all on that one specific day, yeah, you might be hitting that volume threshold, which also increases as you get more advanced. Say you're doing, 20 sets for your chest, like I said, on that one day. So across the entire week, you are getting those 20 sets, which in the research has been shown that upwards of 20 sets for intermediate and advanced trainees is good, but you're not allocating those sets efficiently, or as efficiently as possible. So you'd be much better served in, say you're doing 4 exercises for your chest on Monday, you could actually split up those 4 exercises across the week, and give it its own separate day as an intermediate or an advanced trainee. And you'll notice that you could actually do more volume because you will be less fatigued, um, relatively speaking. So if you have, flat bench, dips, pec deck, and push-ups as your last exercise. By the time you get halfway through that second exercise, you've already accumulated so much fatigue and muscle damage locally that you will not be able to perform the same amount of reps and therefore accumulate the same amount of volume as you would be able to if you split those sets across the week. So you could theoretically take those 4 exercises, give them their separate day, and you'll also benefit from what's known as the repeated bout effect, because when you train the musculature, you're not only training to adapt in terms of size and strength, you're also training its recovery capacity. And the repeated bout effect dictates that the more often you train a specific muscle group or with a specific exercise, the less muscle damage you will incur as a result. So you'll actually feel less sore, but allow yourself to create the proper adaptations because you are able to accumulate more volume since you're less fatigued. So that's frequency and volume. You'd be better off allotting your frequency and volume differently across the week. A lot of split routines come prepackaged with the idea that there's this optimal range for hypertrophy as well. And this is really a myth that's ingrained in bodybuilding lore where 6 to 12 reps is going to give you more hypertrophy than a lower or higher amount. And this it really doesn't make a lot of sense to me, especially when as you get more advanced, you require a higher intensity of your 1 rep max to utilize to recruit the necessary amount of muscle fibers to get the proper adaptations from training in the first place. So it never really made sense to me why 60 or 70% of your 1 rep max would be more beneficial to than 80% or higher of your 1 rep max for given exercises like a compound exercise like a bench press. And this goes back to the Arnold Schwarzenegger chase the pump type another feel-based factor in your workout. As we mentioned earlier with soreness, people think soreness is an indicator of a good workout. People also think metabolic cellular swelling, like the pump, is an indicator of a good workout, and it may or may not be, depending if that rep target that you're prescribing per exercise matches up with your muscle fiber type. And there is a way to test your muscle fiber profile based on each muscle group in your body, and that will dictate how endurance-based or strength-based the muscle fibers within each specific muscle group are for you individually. So in general, males have more type 2 explosive strength type fibers than females, so they could afford to generally work with a higher percentage of their 1 rep max or utilize lesser reps with a given percentage. Because the rep targets that you use and the rep ranges that you utilize should be tailored around this muscle fiber profile in order to give you the most adaptations. When you train in accordance with, say, your chest, you come to find that your chest, if you give your bench press 80%, if you load it with 80% of your 1 rep max, and you find that you could only do 3 or 4 reps with that given weight, that means you have a lot of type 2 muscle fibers in your chest, and therefore, in order to incur the most progress specific to your chest, you will want to utilize lower rep work, because that's what your muscle fiber profile type dictates. Your muscles will respond to the stimulus that it's set up to respond best to. That's kind of A to B connecting the dots there. So it's not to say that higher or that middle rep range won't be effective for some exercises. You may come to find that a lot of your rep targets may fall within that 6 to 12 rep range anyway, but there are, especially females or people with a very endurance-based muscle fiber type, because this is all genetically determined, can progress with 80% of their 1 rep max by doing like 20 to 24 reps per set on a given exercise, or those are just arbitrary numbers. So by prescribing that lower rep range, you're inherently undercutting the progress of the people who could handle more reps with the same intensity, and you're also basically like murdering the people who can basically only handle a lower amount of reps with a given percentage. So there's ways to test for this, which is beyond the scope of this video, which is getting long already. But so frequency, volume, intensity, and um, bro splits come prepackaged with the idea that if they stop working, you just need to start throwing more advanced techniques into the mix. We're talking about going to failure, supersetting, tri-setting, giant sets, all that fancy stuff. And it's really unnecessary, especially when you are um, allotting your training volume more efficiently across the week. You don't want to sacrifice your work quality. Say if you're going bench press one day, flies another day, dips on a third day, by going to failure on bench press that first day can produce so much unnecessary muscle damage and give you a very low rate of return because muscle damage isn't directly correlated with strength and size gains. You can sacrifice work quality across days because it'll take longer for your chest to recover since you basically annihilated all the muscle fibers. So by avoiding failure, by keeping 1 or 2 reps in the tank on each set, you are inherently going to be able to handle more reps across the week and therefore more volume with the same given amount of weight. And it's a similar story for supersets, trisets, giant sets. You're accumulating a lot of fatigue, but you're also pushing your strength training session towards an endurance session because you are accumulating a lot of time under tension. You're consistently doing work, and that's going to mimic that higher total amount of work done with a specific muscle group is going to closely mimic the in terms of how your body perceives this, I'm saying, an endurance type workout. And endurance type workouts and strength training type workouts signal your body to adapt in pretty different ways. They literally oppose each other, which is why cardio and strength training don't exactly mix to a certain extent. And this is why you should keep your strength training. So you definitely be better served unless time is your biggest determining factor here, in which case supersets may have an application. But you're better off leaving those advanced techniques for somebody else, especially if you are properly rearranging your volume and your frequency, because you can rest assured that since you're doing a higher volume across the week, since you'll be able to do more reps and save your work quality, that you will be progressing even better because volume is one of the biggest indicators of progress, especially at the intermediate and advanced level. So hopefully this sheds light on a little bit of light on why maybe your split routine hasn't been giving you the results that you may have been expecting from it. And I will say as a caveat, professional bodybuilders tend to use this type of routine with great efficacy because drugs and steroids push your genetic potential much higher, and therefore you are still at your given training status. But if you were like an intermediate or advanced trainee and then decided to take steroids or PEDs, your genetic ceiling goes up, 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 and you stay basically at that same level. So you become a beginner relative to your new genetic potential. And this is the type of routine you see in Flex Magazine and online on bodybuilding.com. And it might work for Phil Heath, who can afford to train with a lower frequency and volume for a given body part and get away with it and still adapt in response to it. But for any trainee who has been utilizing a program like that for a couple months, you will most likely notice that your results start to peter off and then you get stuck in that dreaded plateau. So if you're putting in the effort already, try and make some of these changes. Rearrange your volume and your frequency. Understand that there isn't a special range that you should pigeonhole all of your exercises in. It's going to depend on your muscle fiber type. And also kind of ditch the training to failure and supersetting, giant setting, advanced techniques, FST7 or whatever the hell people are talking about these days. And you will see that progress will kind of restart almost out of nowhere, especially on the exercises that you have lower in your exercise order, because you will be doing them in a less fatigued state. And so you will see that those will start progressing much better as a result as well. So hopefully this was informative to you. If you'd like to get a little bit more information about your own genetic potential and training status, shoot me a message, comment here, sign up for an assessment where we can go over all of this stuff in detail and how it relates to you. And I will be speaking with you in the next video.